Live from NBC4, this is the Channel 4 News at 5.
Coming up right here, fertility after cancer. Despite breast cancer and a double mastectomy, a Redondo Beach woman isn't giving up her dream of becoming a mom. Cancer almost took away her dreams and her life, but she is not giving up. Instead, a Redondo Beach woman is helping other women and other women in similar situations. NBC4's Gordon Tokamatsu has the very inspirational story of Alice Creasy.
Here we go. Good job.
A little more than a year ago, Alice Creasy's life was going exactly the way she'd planned. 2 puppies, new Redondo Beach home, a growing consulting business, a boyfriend, and...
Being a mom has been important to me since I was a little girl.
Then, on February 27, 2008, everything seemed to change. Breast cancer at 32 years old.
I heard the words, and it was like my life just paused, literally.
Doctors said it was the kind that feeds off estrogen. Chemotherapy and radiation would destroy the tumor, but there was a 50% chance it would devastate her reproductive system. For 5 years, even after her double mastectomy, Creasy must take drugs to keep her ovaries from working, keep the cancer at bay. She took immediate action.
That I have 14 embryos and 11 eggs frozen.
Despite tremendous odds, Creasy is hoping to someday become pregnant with one of her eggs or one of her embryos. She says cancer threw her a curveball, one that's left her nearly broke from medical expenses, without the boyfriend and the business. But she says she's dodged that ball. With family help, she's still got the charming little house, the puppies, and something else.
The odds are stacked against me, but I'm so hopeful and optimistic.
In 5 years, at 37, Creasy is bound and determined to fulfill her motherhood dream. She's begun a nonprofit group, myvision.org, to help young women in similar situations, facing financial ruin, infertility, and hopelessness. One of her mottos, are you living the life you imagined? Alice Creasy says, yes, she is.
Because I want to be a mom, and I know I'm going to be a mom.
Gordon Tokamatsu, Channel 4 News, Redondo Beach.
Our Dr. Bruce is here right now to discuss some of the medical aspects of this story. And first of all, realistically, how difficult is it to become pregnant after radiation and or chemotherapy?
Well, it depends on what you freeze. You heard that she froze both embryos and eggs. Now, embryos we have been able to freeze for a number of years, but because eggs are very largely water, they used to burst when we tried to freeze them. Now, something like 30%, certainly less than 50%, the embryos survive about 50% of the time. When I say survive, I mean survive the thawing process. First you freeze them. When you thaw them, embryos survive about half the time. Eggs, somewhat less than that. A few years ago, we couldn't do eggs at all. Now we can.
But doesn't chemo or radiation sometimes push you into early menopause? Wouldn't that become an issue as well?
Well, that's one of the reasons that people do this. Is what they do is if you're going to have chemo or radiation and your doctors tell you that's going to interfere with your reproductive cycle, there you see a fertility procedure and the freezing of some eggs, a story we did sometime in the past. In those cases, you may want to save your eggs for later on. Now, let's say you're 20 or 21 and you develop cancer and you're going to want to have babies, but you're not sure when. If you freeze the eggs when you're young, they're less likely to have a defect that leads to Down syndrome later on.
Okay.
So there are a couple of reasons women are doing this. One of the legitimate medical reasons are people who are going to have chemo or radiation do it so that they can preserve their childbearing ability. But some women do it because they don't want to have babies now and they're going to have them later on. Well, you may be able to save yourself the problem with Down syndrome, but it's not an absolute guarantee.
Sure.
That is the moral dilemma that some people are objecting to. So a couple of different reasons.
Because only some of them are viable after a certain amount of time. All right, Dr. Bruce, thank you for clarifying some of that.